Well, I grew up with a single mom who worked at times but injured herself when I was relatively young, and so we were on assistance quite a bit as in my younger years. There was periods of my father being absent and then returning, and a lot of just general emotional dysregulation. I sought attention initially from my cousin's father, who was in the house at the time renting the basement, and he was unfortunately a pedophile, so that led to my first experience of sexual abuse.
How old were you?
I think it started when I was 5, because he moved in 94 or 95. And as far as I understand, it started when he first moved in. And then even once he moved out, I was very emotionally connected to him because I felt he gave me attention, he cared about me. And unfortunately, through that experience, I deduced that in order to get someone to care about me, I had to give them my body.
So yeah, you're caring for him. That's what kind of held you back from telling anyone?
Yeah, because
did you realize it was wrong at the time?
I knew it was wrong immediately, but I have this memory that because I didn't tell my mother the first time, I was afraid to tell her any time after that because I was afraid she'd be mad at me for not telling her the first time. He gave me money, and he apparently took money off of their debt, and then I continued to clean his apartment, and we talked more. He noticed I had an interest in pursuing school, and particularly wanted to go to university and pursue post-secondary, but I had what he called a mind going to waste because I was in such a poor environment with little stimulus and things motivating me away from school at best. Just had what appeared to be a much more stable environment to live off of and be supported by. Home was never really like a safe space for me. And so when he started being aggressive and violent in response to what he called was my misbehavior, my rebellion, lying, not speaking loud enough, not speaking clearly, whatever he could come up with that I was doing wrong.
It seems like pre-average teenager kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Add, super dysregulated teenager who is like really confused about why they're so angry, right? Yeah, you got a real emotional mess and a man who thinks that he can straighten them out by slapping them around a little. It started off as mostly verbal abuse and just really poor, aggressive attempts at parenting. And then he threatened for a number of months that if I didn't behave better, he was going to hit me. And it's one of those things as a child that you're like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. And then he finally did. And it was quite shocking the first time, but then it just sort of escalated where from raising his hand and backhanding me in the car to chasing me with items and all out beatings at times as the years went on. And unfortunately, having his own emotional dysregulation, his own mental health issues, his own sexual warp that made him a pedophile, he allowed himself to easily justify raping me as well. I have the memory of rolling over afterwards, and crying myself to sleep, and basically believing that this is a price I'm willing to pay to get away from my mother, to get out of poverty, and to get ahead in life.
You looked at all of this as a means to get to that ultimate goal of yours?
Yeah. Because I knew that I was disadvantaged. I knew that my mother wasn't a very good source of help to get ahead. I went on a trip to Fiji. It was actually my second trip. And it was like a volunteer vacation thing where I volunteered for 1 week and vacationed for 1 week. And when I was on the bus at one point, I was just thinking about all the things that he'd done to me, all the suffering that I'd gone through. And then I started reflecting on how I'd seen him interact with other people, and how, as time had gone on, I'd see him conflict more and more and more with people and cause unnecessary fights just randomly in public, arguments with people, and just seem to clash in a very unhealthy way more and more. And so as I was reflecting on that, I realized that it was actually irresponsible of me to not report him because he was still harming other people.
When all of this is going on, and I mean, the dust kind of settles, like, at the end of the day, you're missing someone who was fairly significant in your life for one reason or another for almost a decade. Where does that leave you?
That's where the alcoholism comes in. So I dropped out of school, as you might recall me mentioning. I'd finished that year of school, and then I basically did whatever paperwork was required to be like, Western, I'm not coming back. And then I reported him. I'm at the point where I don't feel employable at all, because I've been on OW so long that, like, being in such deprivation for such an extended period of time really impacts your mental health. It really wears it down.
Do you also feel like because you'd already dropped out of school, you didn't have that, like, academic goal? Do you think that not having that, like, thing on the horizon, do you think that played an impact on some of the mental state, at least?
I never really thought about that, but that definitely made the misery more prevalent because I didn't have something to distract me with. So when I learned that in 2000 he had kidnapped a girl and her mother, like held them against their will basically, and raped the little girl every night, anally and vaginally, for 3 months straight, to the point that she had to wear a diaper for years, and beat her up just because. It was very, very devastating to have to face that, because it was easier to handle that he'd done so many awful things to me if it had been a mistake that he had done out of concern and care. To know that he'd actually done it all out of just selfish intent, out of just fulfilling his own needs. F***ed me up.
Where do you go from there? Like, what are the first steps towards accepting that reality and trying to move forward?
Well, I've dealt with suicidal ideation quite a bit, to answer that. While I was unemployed, I was feeling just very disconnected from society and worthless in a lot of ways. I wasn't doing anything. So I started my YouTube channel as a way of trying to share my life experiences and try to show people who may have been through similar things they're not alone, or to share information that I've learned so that other people might not suffer as much as I have. I actually had one person blow me away and message me and say that they had been through the very similar situation of a father figure raping them through their teens and then getting away from them, and that was mind-boggling.
Did you kind of feel like that your instance was kind of isolated, or it was, like, was it shocking to know that other people had?
To the uniqueness of my particular abuse, yes, it was so shocking. I think I responded a little too aggressively towards her, and she never responded again because I was so excited to talk and interact with someone who had been through something so similar. And I was shocked too. That clearly shows me that it's not uncommon for father figures to do that. It's not uncommon for male figures to take on father figure roles and then do that.
Have you found that your studies have helped you cope with what has happened to you a little bit more?
Oh yeah. So a big factor of the social work program is helping the students who are soon to be social workers figure their own shit out. Because if you don't have your own stuff figured out, it's going to get muddled right up into your clients' problems, and you won't be able to help them as much.
So now that you're in school, you have a little bit of stability and some routine in your life. Is it motivated you to pursue that stability? Because you mentioned some of your lowest points were when you weren't necessarily a functioning member of society. Do you realize that now as a goal to attain?
Stability?
Stability. As much stability as you mean.
Stability has always been a goal. Certainly always been a goal, mental health and otherwise. I still definitely have the goal of just trying to be able to support myself. I'm still living off of Ontario disability, and honestly that's the only reason I'm still in school. If I didn't have that assistance, I would probably just be on OW and screwed, because despite doing 4 years of university, I didn't graduate, so I still qualify for Walmart.
What advice do you give to a young person who may be in a similar enough situation where they don't, things are rough? I
have advice both for a victim as well as someone trying to support a victim. So the biggest thing for people who are dealing with abuse, I think, would be there is help out there for you, and there is no shame in seeking it. I had so much shame in having to admit what I had been through, because I saw it as something I had been through, and I did not properly perceive it as something that someone had put me through.
And for those who care for a victim?
Don't spend your time questioning why, because that doesn't help them. Don't question why they put up with the abuse. Don't question why it went on so long, because half the time they don't even know that. They don't know why. They just know that it's what they're doing. And the biggest thing they need is empathy, and to not be shamed by your confusion.